Sunscreen's interesting because maybe you do age a little bit worse skin-wise. Maybe you don't.
There's an argument for it, yeah.
Like if you want to have pristine skin, maybe...
If you're a model or something.
Yeah. That's like finasteride, the same finasteride discussion. Like if you need to keep your hair absolutely because you're getting paid $40 million a year to do a gig.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay. Finasteride topically is probably going to be your move. Like don't mess around with anything else. But if you tell me like you're just an average Joe, you already have low libido, you're on finasteride, good luck.
It's all context, dude.
It's context. These are all tools that we have. It's not one size fit all. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: if you are blocking the sun and you're not getting POMC stimulation and you're not getting MSH and all these other benefits, then you're gonna pay the price there too.
Yeah.
Autoimmune disease and everything.
Which is arguably a bigger risk.
I'm okay with my skin being a little bit older, as long as I get the health benefits.
Bro, especially men. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, for a man, it just refines you more.
Exactly. Exactly.
As a man, you just become more refined. You're like Robert Downey Jr. He looks better, not now as a vegan, but he looked better as Iron Man than he did as a young man.
Yeah,
he's more tan. He just looks better. But
there's some beauty to the imperfection, honestly.
Yeah, a man shouldn't be clean.
No, absolutely not. Women say this a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we like the fine wrinkles, the little crows,
the rugged.
Yeah.
Crow's feet, whatever.
You should look rugged.
Yeah.
It definitely boosts you as a man. I don't know why people are starting to look like we got to trim everything. You know what I mean?
You should look aggressive to other men too. Like, but the whole testosterone system is based to allow you to compete with other men. Mm. Are we starting?
We've
already started.
Okay.
All right, guys. Abud Bakri's here, so please pay attention. This is going to be an awesome episode.
Dr. Abud Bakri now.
Oh, yeah.
Finished residency.
Yes.
All done.
Dr. Bakri, is that what we call you now?
You can call me Abud, man.
All right,
Congrats, man.
You knew me before I was even out of high school, so
that's true.
Known you for a while.
Well, welcome. We have been looking forward to this day for so long. You are the third guest this month, which is awesome.
Wonderful.
We're starting January 2024 off to a great start.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
And yeah, so before we get diving into anything specific, I just want to know, holy crap, you've gone so far ahead in Twitter. You've blown up like crazy to the point where I stopped seeing you on TikTok even.
Just took a full-on break from everything else.
Yeah. You're becoming friends with everyone that we used to know. And it's just, it's crazy. So talk us through that. Like what's happening? How do you juggle all of that, including, practicing medicine all day pretty much?
I mean, when I tweet, it's just what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis and what I'm feeling. Like when I walk in the hospital and I see patients are sick with XYZ thing, that inspires a tweet. And it's easy to just tweet it out. It's not structured. It's not artificial. It's just coming from what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And I say it. While TikTok's a little more artificial, I would say you have to kind of put the camera on,
read the audience, see what they like, feed them a little bit.
Plus, I realized I was wasting my time trying to make video content for TikTok when the audience that is most in tune with these health things and willing to actually read and examine these things further is the Twitter X audience.
Makes a lot of sense.
Higher IQ as well.
Yeah, much higher IQ.
100%.
To be able to read something and wanting to read something is a very different game than wanting to just watch a 10-second clip on TikTok. Completely different person.
Yeah, so the question for me is, do you think Twitter still facilitates some sort of focus? Because focus is a muscle as opposed to TikTok?
Twitter does, I think. For me, Twitter's engaging, new ideas. You're seeing cool things from people. Then you can retweet something. I'll see a tweet from you. I'll take that tweet. I'll retweet it, and then you'll respond back. And it's very engaging in that sense. Where TikTok, you have to artificially try to capture attention. I mean, there's attention capturing on Twitter too with a thread. You have to be able to say this thread will do this, this, and this if you want it to blow up. But I think that the Twitter audience is just so in tune with wanting raw information rather than packaging it up, making it look nice. Because TikTok is just a matter of, do you look good? Do you can you do something crazy to catch someone's attention in their monkey brain for 3 seconds? And you question whether or not you want to contribute to that further.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I like that you're doing the A Squared podcast with you have your co-host.
Yeah, Adnan, Dr. Adnan.
Yeah,
He's a co-resident of mine.
Immediately when we saw that, we were like, dude, this needed to be happening already,
And great quality too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which
amazing
is something that we don't come across often. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, coming from you guys, that means a lot.
Of course. And it's I know now that you could use full form video on Twitter.
Yeah.
Which is something else. I think you did it perfectly. The perfect time
Thank you.
to really release that kind of stuff.
there's good discussions to be had, I think. And the space is kind of toxic and needs a revolution, to say the least.
We're going to bring it about.
Oh, yeah.
Is that because of Elon, do you think?
No, I think
just-
post-pandemic world. I mean, when I say the space, I mean the health space in general.
Oh,
The post-pandemic world, the grifters, the divide between evidence-based, not evidence-based, and that all nonsense. I think people want a fresh voice. People are fed up. People are frustrated. A lot of the health influence taps into fear, where it's like, you need to worry about XYZ thing, plastic, seed oil, whatever it is, instead of trying to empower people to be healthy.
Yeah.
So I don't like to come from a perspective of nocebo. Like it's always good things for you. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna eat, it's gonna piss off some people. If you're gonna eat seed oils,
Yeah.
from your mom's hummus and falafel and whatever it is,
Yeah.
you're gonna say this is anabolic for me. I'm gonna grow from this, right? It's not great. It's not ideal, right? But you're gonna say, it is what it is.
Yeah. That's such a strange thing. I'm glad you mentioned that, and being Middle Eastern, obviously, it's very tough
Right.
to believe in an idea and then all the facts that come with it. And you're just like, I know exactly what I need to do, but it's so hard to stay away from it because half of these things that are tradition to you just include all the things you disbelieve in.
Do you think, with the whole nocebo subject, do you think that people on Twitter take it too far? Because
Yeah.
I think they do.
Yes, they're
believe
very
that.
orthorexic, and they don't live life. I mean, if you were to take everyone's Twitter information, that's a full-time job. Just to buy all the things, to take all the things, do all the things. This contradictory information.
Yeah.
Like somebody will tell you sugar is bad and sugar is the best thing in the world, and the truth is somewhere in the middle, of course. And it's very context dependent, and that's why we need to empower the people to make decisions on these things, rather than just a blanket statement. Right? There's some people. It's like I always say, Floyd Mayweather drinks a Coca-Cola after his training. You think that's affecting his A1C or any of his markers? No, it doesn't matter. It's Floyd Mayweather. He's ripped. He's in great health. Probably not ideal, but if you tell me a 300-pound patient that I have that I'm admitting for pancreatitis drinks Coca-Cola, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very context dependent.
I've always wondered about that. I know a lot of people that they have incredible bodies. They can lift for days, a lot heavier than the average gym goer, and then they'll snack up on gummy worms. And I'm like, how the hell? How does that not do anything? You know what I mean?
Different mitochondrial heteroplasmy. They're born with better mitochondria, worse mitochondria. They had a better upbringing.
Yeah. Well, to me, it also gives off that you must probably exert a lot more than you do eating the junk.
Right.
Right. So maybe it's like me witnessing that was probably once in a lifetime or whatever, once in a blue moon type of thing. But it's crazy that I only started thinking about this stuff after I had gastro issues. And this is the problem, is that you don't really start changing until you picture the physical intestine, right? It's it's a tube that runs for pretty much miles.
It's outside of you, technically.
Is it?
Yeah,
That was the craziest thing.
You're a tube.
Oh, yeah.
With a tube inside of you.
Think of it like a donut.
Yeah. There you go.
So if I'm feeding it corn syrup, for example, how gunky is it down there?
Yeah, it's
Kind of
not-
think
it's not
about
great.
an engine piston,
Right.
Ugh.
And then there's secondary effects when you're not growing good bacteria, you're allowing bad bacteria to bad, quote unquote, to flourish, and then you're getting that mismatch. Something I'm very interested in now is what those good bacteria make for you and send into your bloodstream and signal to your brain. As we talk about weight regulation and becoming obese or overweight, whatever it is, the bacteria do a lot of the work for telling your brain to eat more or eat less. They've done studies where somebody will get a fecal transplant from somebody, and they will inherit the obesity that came with it. So the person that gave the transplant was obese. The first person was skinny, and they will get the microbiome of the obese person and will become obese.
Does that happen every single time?
No,
Okay.
it's hard to predict.
Wow.
It's a host and interaction, and we're only starting to understand the whole gut thing. And there's a lot of grifting that's buy this probiotic, it's going to save your life. Realistically, it's the right foods, it's the right fermented foods, the right cycle, having the great run through. The whole the digestive system is circadianly linked, so you must be able to excrete what you take in at a regular pace. But if you get backed up, that's not good either. So there's a lot of things that go into gut health, and there's not one solution.
Yeah.
Now this is a subject that was very interesting to me. The idea of having to take a shit 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up on the clock.
Yeah.
Now, I have a lot of my circadian health in check, but that
Is not.
is not something that I have in check.
When'd you last meal the night before?
I mean, usually 4 or 5 hours prior. I'm very strict about meal time.
Yeah, right. And then do you eat right when you wake up?
I've been better about that because of leptin and all that.
Do you notice that makes your bowel movement come on earlier?
Typically a little bit. I need to be more aware around that.
Right.
But typically.
For me, it's like wake up. If I go for my walk, I eat something, it's right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like there better be a bathroom in sight, otherwise we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm so hyper focused on the circadian stuff.
Right.
My fiance is like getting hip to it. She does it on the clock perfectly.
Right.
I'm over here like, what is going on, man?
Yeah.
What is wrong with me?
What do you eat for breakfast?
High protein, high fat.
Okay. Like what does that look like?
Steak, avocado,
Oh,
eggs.
that early? Those are slower to digest. Like a steak's
Okay.
slower to digest. Like drink a cup of kefir
Okay.
in the morning and see what happens. Like
We've got the answers,
this
bro.
morning, it was just like evacuation. Get out of my way. I'm going to the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh no, it's occupied. No. yeah.
But like literally, if I didn't get to the bathroom, it was like on the dot. Like 7 a.m. on the dot. It's time to go. I mean, I wake up at 5:30. 7 a.m. is usually my go time.
So what's recommended? Like, what's the ideal way to?
Who are you asking? The traditional system, or you're asking?
No,
like,
I'm asking. We're not asking the anti-traditional system here.
right, decentralized. I think you should be going daily. Like you should be able to excrete what you have inside of you daily. Like that was a known thing in society that if you were well fed and well nourished, that you would go daily.
Okay.
No doubt. Yeah.
And to get to that point, for example, you weren't eating breakfast right when you wake up, correct?
I had a very long streak of not eating breakfast in the morning.
Right.
And once I started diving into the leptin stuff, then I was like, oh.
intermittent
makes sense.
fasting, basically.
Yeah, I used to intermittent fast when I was in medical school too, and I was in my best shape. But that's because I was getting by with the heavy lifting and doing all the other things. But now that I'm more focused on the circadian leptin side, I want to eat as soon as I wake up, and I wake up super hungry, anyways.
Yeah, that's how
Because I cut my food off 3 hours before.
Yeah. So that's a key indicator. If you're not hungry in the morning naturally, then you might have some leptin resistance.
I would say so.
Yeah.
It's hard to define that because like they just published this paper like leptin 30 years later. Like we don't know anything about leptin resistance because no one has put the time and the money into investing into it as a research product because there's no drug at the end of that. Maybe now with Inversago, there might be a drug product that comes out with the whole leptin pathway. But the problem is without a clear financial target, there's not going to be research on that topic.
Yeah, the incentives are against that.
It's interesting, dude. We live in like literally in the middle of history being written. Like you mentioned that the whole gut health thing is still being figured out, right? As we go. I've been hearing a lot about the whole prebiotic, probiotic thing, especially when it comes to people getting it through kombucha, which is like a fermented way of getting it. And then I've been hearing that if you do the same one daily, it's actually doing more damage than good, in a sense. But you need to switch it up with different bacterias, or I don't know.
Different foods, different seasons.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, fermenting foods is a way to store food for later. So if you take a cup of milk and ferment it, instead of the milk going bad within 5 days, now you have weeks to drink it. And the more it lasts, the more fermented it is, the more beneficial bacteria that there are. So fermentation is a pathway for humans to store food for winter. That and drying food up. So right now it's winter as we film this. People would have dried fruit from the summertime. They'd have fermented dairy. They'd have different types of creams and butters stored up. They would do those kind of things so they can survive and have sustenance in the winter. They make like grape molasses and olive oil that they made from the summer harvest and all these kind of things. So fermentation should be seasonally relevant and geographically appropriate. So what is available in your area for that time period? We're very disconnected from that because you just go to Whole Foods and you just find kombucha and you just pick it up and drink it.
True.
So the ideal would be to vary. Variety is key when it comes to gut health.
Interesting.
Now, I mean, we have a lot to cover, but
yeah.
considering that most of our work has been focused on POMC and light and artificial light for the past year or so,
Right.
For people such as Said, I would assume you don't know what POMC is, right? Pro-leptin-melanocortin.
Not really.
You haven't been reading the threads, bro?
Dude, I just see the sun twice a day.
He takes the right approach to
That's
it.
what you need to understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes that simple.
Yeah. As much as I don't, I miss the sun. Like, if I don't feel it on my skin, it's like, it's as if getting used to the gym and then you miss a day.
Yeah,
Like you're itching to.
You feel off.
Yeah. So a gloomy day, horrible.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I don't know how people live in the UK and in these northern environments, especially if you are mismatched to that environment. If you're like darker skin,
Yeah.
like
No
we wouldn't thrive, and we're not even that dark.
No.
in the UK, let alone someone from Africa or somebody.
God
from
forbid you
India.
took vitamin D, too.
Yeah,
That's what I call a'udhu billah.
yeah.
So Abud, how would you break down POMC and the leptin pro-leptin-melanocortin pathway for people who don't necessarily know about this stuff?
Yes, simply, the most important thing that your body cares about is how much body fat you store. Because how much body fat you store dictates how much sex hormone you produce and how much fertility how fertile you are. Right? This is the most important calculation your body's doing every day. So if you do not have fat stores, that means shut down fertility, shut down all kind of pro-movement activities until you find that food. So there's something called a leptin-melanocortin pathway. And it's very, very well designed, let's say. And it's very genius because you have your fat, your skin, the color of your skin, and all downstream wakefulness is linked in one pathway, which is actually phenomenal when you think about it, that it's overlapping pathways that come and converge on this place. So you have leptin, which is a hormone made by your fat cells in response to having sufficient fat levels, and it goes up into your brain and binds onto POMC neurons. POMC neurons make a pro-hormone called POMC, pro-leptin-melanocortin, and this gets cleaved into various different peptides and signaling proteins. The first of which would be ACTH. ACTH goes to your adrenal glands and makes cortisol. People hear cortisol, they freak out. Cortisol is the wakefulness day hormone. It's also the hormone of stress, importantly. So if you want to be awake during the day, you want high levels of cortisol. And that's like when someone comes to me and tells me they have brain fog, it's a cortisol problem. Like you should wake up in the morning and within 30 minutes you should be quite alert to coincide with the high cortisol. So that's one thing, ACTH into cortisol. Number two, you have MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone, which goes into your skin and makes you darker. It also, in animals and most likely in humans, increases mating, desire to mate, and sexuality, spontaneous erections, all these kind of things are through the MSH pathway. It also decreases appetite. It's a very smart thing. If you have leptin, it binds the POMC, you make MSH, your appetite goes down, the system is well calibrated, well-oiled machine. And then the third thing would be the beta endorphin. So you feel good. So that's mood regulation, that's pain control, all these things come out of those three things. There's some other things like lipoprotein and CLIP and all these other smaller pathways, and we're probably going to discover more.
Oh, you think there are more?
There's probably more going on.
Okay.
There's so many peptides in the body that we do not know about. Like people are now getting hip to peptides. There's thousands of signaling molecules that are going between cells, between different organs. They're all small little peptides. We're just trying to uncover these.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, it's, reduction of science is so much work to do. Yeah.
We have, like everyone talks about junk DNA. There's no junk DNA.
Like, imagine the hubris you would have to imagine that the human body is wrong in that sense.
Right. Whether you come from like a divinity pathway or you come from an evolutionary pathway, both pathways you understand that this is a fine-tuned machine.
The most perfect fine-tuned machine.
Right. And the fact that we can have this discussion and set up this podcast studio and talk about these things is a testament to that. Right. So that's what leptin is binding to POMC. It's stimulating all these pathways of you being awake, you being sexually active and regulating appetite, and then you feeling well. Now, the POMC neurons can also be, in the skin, POMC can be stimulated by light. So that's the key thing that gets missed by everybody, besides Dave, of course, because he's the resident POMC expert on Twitter.
By the way, great distinction, both sunlight and artificial light.
Right. And what seems to be the case is that different types of light will cause POMC to be cleaved differently, which is something that we need to explore way more aggressively, especially with the implications for fat loss, for different types of immunity, for your skin color, your ability to be robust against cancer. All these things are linked to this pathway. I would say single-handedly, this is the most important pathway that runs in the human body because all other pathways are downstream. Some people care about testosterone, they care about cortisol, they care about their thyroid hormone, their gut health. Everything comes downstream of leptin. Now, it sounds like leptin should make it very easy. If you're fat, you have a ton of leptin. Leptin goes to your brain. It makes your appetite go down through MSH and other pathways. Great, right? That's the kicker here, is that once your body is exposed to too much leptin for too long, you become leptin resistant. And likely through other pathways, through inflammatory pathways, through circadian miscalibration, your body becomes leptin resistant. And remember, your body's smart. So it's saying, like, hey, we are in an inflamed state, or we're not sleeping enough, or we're highly stressed out. We don't want this leptin to be binding right now. We shouldn't be focusing on fertility. We shouldn't be focusing on movement or action. So let's block the effects of leptin. And then you end up with obesity. And then it's a vicious cycle. Because once you're obese, you're leptin resistant, you get more obese, you're always hungry, it's hard to diet. You start dieting, you become even worse off. All the defense mechanisms in your body kick in and tell your body, do not lose weight. So that's why when people, when they diet, they become famished.
So leptin resistance, let's say you do everything perfectly.
Yeah.
circadian friendly approach, high fat, high protein diet, whatever you want to do. What is the general timeline, do you think, that people can become or get into a better state as opposed to leptin resistance?
How long were they bad?
That's a good
the
question.
How bad are they? How long were they bad? How bad is their? Some people are always leptin sensitive. Like the people who do not gain weight no matter what. You put them in our same environment, they're on night shifts, they're on whatever, they eat junk food and they never gain weight. What's going on there? Is it leptin receptor polymorphism? Is there something else going on? What frustrates me is that we should have all hands on deck approach to this pathway because this is the weight loss pathway. Like GLP-1s, buying on POMC.
Yeah.
No one's talking about the Ozempic, Mounjaro, all these different drugs.
Bro.
They buy on POMC. Contrave, which is Wellbutrin and naltrexone, another weight loss drug, binds on POMC. Everything's through this pathway. Everything gets integrated up in the ARGP neurons and POMC neurons. And if you bind the POMC neurons, your metabolic rate goes up and your desire to be active goes up. You'll notice yourself, your feet moving more, you're more fidgety, you have a desire to go to the gym, and your appetite goes down. And if it goes down the other pathway, your appetite goes up like crazy, and your basal metabolic rate and your basal movement goes down. You're colder, you're less active. So yeah, calories in, calories out is true but both sides of the equation are dictated and controlled by the leptin pathway.
Yeah, like the implications of this are astounding. And I think with centralized medicine, the incentive structure is to avoid having people go down this route.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, I would say, well, it depends on how how nefarious do we want to see the centralized system, which it's lost a lot of its trust in the last few years. The thing is, the centralized system, if you're healthy, you do not come in contact with the system. You're not studied by the system. The system doesn't care about you. If you're a fully optimized, healthy Amish dude living on your farm, eating raw milk and sleeping at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., no one cares about you. Like, you're not studied as part of the system. So there's not going to be protocols made about you. So when the system looks at these things, there's no drug. So when they discovered leptin, they put a ton of money into it, right? Because they made leptin, I think it's like metalleptin or some kind of leptin analog that you can give it to people. It didn't work.
Yeah.
When they discovered leptin, they thought they'd cured obesity. Like, this is what triggers you to move more and to eat less. Just inject people with tons of this, and obesity's done. Of course, there's a giggle there that the system's way more complicated, and the system shuts down and says no more leptin. We don't want to respond to leptin. It only actually gets worse. The more you inject people with leptin. There are rare people that either have a leptin deficiency or leptin receptor deficiency or melanocortin 4R, I believe, receptor problems. And there are drugs specifically for these people, and you inject them with this drug, and then their weight just comes off.
You see, this is why I appreciate you, because you've experienced both sides of the aisle. And for me, I haven't been in the central. I mean, I've seen it with birth. I've seen it with a few other things. But you have a much more nuanced approach. And that's why I usually refer to you when it comes to centralized medicine, because I don't know that much about the world.
Right. I mean, doctors mean well. They're just not equipped with the tools to help you.
No.
Like, your doctor's not going to save you. Like, we talked about this last time. But your doctor, the doctor can't save herself. Like, I walk in the hospital sometimes and I see everybody looks gloomy. Everyone looks leptin resistant. Like, now you can kind of see on their face. They're like, their face is puffy. They look tired. They're not energetic. They are all getting fatter. They're eating junk food. They have a craving for junk food, which is a part of the leptin pathway as well. And it's because you're under artificial LED lights the whole time. If you walk into a hospital, if it's 8 a.m., 8 p.m., midnight, it looks the same. You can't tell it's daytime or nighttime. And the patients are going through this. What I tell people is that so let me tell you a story. When patients come into the hospital, especially patients over 75, 80, and they're in the hospital for a few days, what they get is delirious, right? And within a few days, you find an 85-year-old lady, very calm when you first meet her. She's in the corner, completely naked, ripping out her IVs, going crazy. She's lost her full ability to be a normal person. It's kind of crazy. Until you see it, you don't believe it. This is what happens when you miscalibrate or get somebody off their normal circadian rhythm. They see the same light the same day. The curtains are closed. They're just hearing all these noise. They're very delirious, and they behave in a very strange way. At a low level, this is happening to everybody else.
Yeah.
They don't have the same zest for life during the day, and they're not able to sleep as deeply in the night because of the flatness of light environment.
Just purely blue.
It's the same light all day.
Yeah.
So, and theoretically, most people, their houses are darker during the day than they are at night. They let some sunlight in from their windows, but their nighttime is like fully lit. It's very bright. So how confusing is it to the body that you sleep after the brightest part of your day?
Well, this isn't even to take into account that every aspect of the human body is designed around light.
Right.
If non-visual photoreceptors in the eye, in the skin. I mean, we talk about melanopsin, blue light sensing.
Right. Because your body needs to know where it is in time to be able to do its functionality.
Yeah.
So like every organ, every cell in your body needs to know when to do what. And the way our body is triggered is with light primarily, and then temperature, activity, and food intake secondarily. Mm-hmm. So those are secondary circadian side givers or time setters. But the light is the most important thing because it just makes sense. The sun exists. So why would you use anything else but the sun to calibrate yourself? Besides the modern era, for the last 100 years, we have artificial light. So we've been able to get around that system, which is great. I mean, we get to have hospitals at night. We get to have all this industry, all these great things that we get to experience. But there comes a cost. So we have to figure out as a species, how do we traverse this line without becoming Amish, but at the same time not becoming critically ill?
Yeah.
What do you have to say about all that? That's pretty technical.
I mean, I just look at it from some thoughts that I've had before. This might sound a little off topic, but I don't think it is. Like, some of the thoughts that I've had is, if I wasn't a creative, right, I'm sitting under all these artificial lights, especially these monitors,
right,
in a closed room so you can see accurately and like all this stuff. And then, you know, you always tell me like put on red light blockers and all this stuff. I can't. Blockers, the blue light blockers.
Yeah,
sorry. You need the red light.
You need the color.
Yeah, you need the color. So Flux won't even do it unless I'm like browsing or just chilling on the computer. You know what I mean? If I'm doing actual work, usually I'm color grading. So I've noticed the way I feel is horrible. Sure. And it got me to start thinking about like, okay, in an alternate universe, if I didn't have to do this, what would I do for work?
Right.
And immediately I'm like farming.
Right.
Swimming.
Outdoor
like,
labor.
Anything. Yeah. Outdoor labor. That's all you think about, you know? Like, let me just, at most, be under a shed or a roof.
Right.
But I'm still outdoors in some sort of way. And then that got me to think about, like, okay, if I was just in a closed roof, but I was outdoors, does light reflection also give the same effect?
Yes, because you still get the brightness.
Right.
That signal still gets to your brain. Your brain still integrates, like, hey, it's bright out.
Yeah.
Your brain's trying to figure out where are we in time, and so what should we do? Should we release melatonin? Should we make cortisol? What should we do right now? What is the right thing for Saeed at this moment? Because at a fundamental level, you have your deep brain structures that are doing all these calculations in the background. How much testosterone to make? Should we eat? Should we not eat? Should we be awake? And then you have your forebrain. That's the human developed part that dictates, hey, I'm going to edit this video. I'm going to make this sick photography session. Whatever it is, that's you, right? Your deep brain kind of isn't you. It's kind of running in the background. It's running all these systems in the background. So you want to hack your deep brain structure with your environment, whether that's testosterone optimization, and I hate the word optimization, circadian health, where all these things, you want your environment to send the right signals to the deep brain so that your forebrain is empowered to do the most thing you can do.
Makes a lot more sense.
I mean, for our situation, I'm in the hospital, you're editing, we're under a horrible light environment. It's the reality of the world. We don't want to nocebo ourselves into thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get so sick from this. What we want to do is put in safeguards and mechanisms to enhance our health and become more resilient. So we're not very like orthorexic, but at the same time, we're more resilient. So what I notice is that the more sunlight I get, the more the artificial lighting doesn't bother me as much, or doesn't affect me as much. Like it's kind of counterbalanced because I'm getting so much brightness from the sun that a few hours inside, it's not going to be the biggest deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of insane to think about some people's lives, dude.
Yeah.
Working corporate 9 to 5, and then you're in a closed car. You get to work, you're in there for God knows how long, unless you take an outdoor lunch somehow, which is rare.
Especially for men.
Yeah.
Like for both genders, what it's causing is more masculinized females and more feminized men.
It's crazy, dude.
And that's exactly the statistics that you see.
Yeah.
Like lower testosterone, like all this. And then, dude, besides that, imagine willingly going on a walk, but instead on a treadmill. At where? At a closed indoor gym.
Right. That's madness to me.
Yeah, I what I do, my safeguards is like I watch the sunrise in the hospital parking lot as I'm parking my car. Yeah. I try to park as high as possible so I can get the sunlight. And then I walk every few hours, or ideally every 1 to 2 hours. I'm outside doing a walk, getting some sunlight, going back inside. If I'm drinking a coffee in the hospital, it's outdoors. If I'm eating, it's outdoors. So I'm putting in these safeguards to enhance my ability to perform. There's a question of whether or not you wear blue blockers in the hospital. Me and our boy from Regenerative Health podcast, we're debating this, discussing this. I would, TBD on that. I feel like my performance would fall off. if I wasn't getting the blue light.
Just because it's kind of lulling you into like a sedative state.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me because every time I recommend blue light blockers to somebody, it's like within 3 minutes your eyes start to get tired.
Yeah. And then you start having a psychological loop where if you put this on, it's before bed. So you start associating bedtime with that. So
I've never thought about that perspective. Yeah. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Interesting. I've worn blue light blockers outdoors, actually.
Yeah.
And the way I feel is slightly different in the brain. I'm a lot easier going, a lot more relaxed. It's weird.
It's interesting because if we only had photoreceptors in our eyes, we would say that's fine. But the problem is you have photoreceptors in your skin too. So unless you're wearing a hoodie and you're completely covered up, you're like in the club, then we'll talk about a different situation.
That's,
that's another circadian rabbit hole to go down at a different time. But
so are you saying the hijab? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. It's a bet.
No, I don't know. Like, what does it mean to have?
I don't know.
Like, for example, in the Middle East, they would design their homes so they had an inner quarter inside the house. So like imagine your home is a rectangle. The inside of the rectangle will be carved out. It'd be open air. So the lady folk in the house would get all the sunlight they needed.
True.
And they would be awake and able to live, because otherwise it'd be dark all day inside, so that you have plentiful light and you're well exposed. So even in societies where the females weren't getting sun exposure outdoors, they'd be getting it inside their own house. Whether that's in the North Africa, the Morocco region, in the Levantine region, everybody would have that kind of house structure.
Without the medical facts here, obviously they were onto something. Like, there was a reason why people liked the sun.
Right.
Interesting.
I mean, every society, there's a reason why many societies have gone into sun worship. Like if you do not have, many societies end up with sun worship because of this, because the UV, you can get UVB addiction. Yeah. So because of the endorphin, remember the leptin, POMC pathway, you get UVB, you get beta endorphin, you feel so good. People have gotten addicted to the sunlight, and that's why they start worshiping it. They start doing all these things. So I would say that they missed the message and confused the source for the creator of the source, but that's a different theological discussion.
And dude, to display the power of this, like beta endorphin's an opioid peptide.
Yeah.
It's powerful stuff. So, I mean, there's a reason why you want to wake up with the sun as much as possible, like just naturally.
Okay, and what is a good wake up? 9 a.m.? Like, no, not, well,
someone say
so you want to see the sunrise.
Where are you on Earth? And what season is it?
That's true.
It's very nuanced. Like, someone asked me for a blanket statement. There is no blanket statement. Where are you on Earth? And what season is it? And what are your responsibilities? Like, are you not going to see your kids in the morning? Get sunlight. You know what I'm saying? That you have to have a real conversation with somebody of where are you on Earth? What can you do with where you are? Like, I get a lot of DMs like, hey, I live in Switzerland or I live in Finland and I can't get light because it's only 3 hours of sunlight in the winter. I'm like, okay, well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Right. And there's workarounds. There's like cold exposure. You can get the UV boxes. You get the SAD lamps. There's a lot of red light therapy. There's a lot of workarounds. You can biohack your way, and that's where it gets very beautiful. If you have a baseline understanding of circadian health, you can then employ things on top of that to make your circadian biology work better for you, despite the limitations of your life.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, if we've had like 4 gloomy days in a row, the first 2 days, I'll be like, dude, I can almost not get to sleep. Like, it's taking me harder than usual to get to sleep without taking any pills or anything like that, right? And then I realize I have a vital red light. Turn that thing on. What do you know?
You turn it on before bed or
before bed. So I'll do like a 40-minute session. I'll read.
Oh, I know what I was about to say right now.
No. I mean, here's what I was thinking about last night, actually. I turned on my red light yesterday around 6 p.m., which is technically nighttime for us. But what I was trying to do is simulate a sunset.
Okay, that's an
artificial sunset. Where like I turn it on and slowly dim it away, and then turn it off.
Has it worked?
Yesterday was my first time I ever tried that. Okay, the thought came to me yesterday. I'm like, I missed the sunset today because I was busy. So what if I make my own artificial sunset? Because if you get the sunset and then you go home and then you have 2 hours more of bright lights, that's very confusing too.
Defeats the purpose of it.
Yeah. So I'm like, hey, can I make my own artificial sunset?
Yeah.
So like what I noticed before this is when I take a nightly shower now. Before bed, stay clean, people. But also the warmth and the cooling effect also contributes to the circadian rhythm, to this facilitating of deep sleep. But now I have a red light in the bathroom instead of the overhead light that's there, and I just take a shower with that on. I come out of the shower and I cannot stand up. It's complete like wash over. Like, hey, I need to be out now. So it's like it's a better light than complete, like a blue light, of course, or a typical LED light. It's not the ideal light is nothing. right? But we evolved to have sunlight, to have firelight, candlelight. These are the things that are more circadian aligned.
I mean, on Twitter, you have a lot of guys who are basically just throwing out the idea that you shouldn't have any light after sunset. I'm like, how practical is that for most people?
It's not practical.
Not at all. You want me to live like a troglodyte in a cave? Like
Stub your toe in your hallway or something. Yeah.
Right, and there's, like if you put candles out and you have kids, your kid can knock out over the candle and you have a fire in the house. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's why what we want to do is take advantages of the greatness that modernity offers us. Like we get spring water shipped to us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's great, but at the same time, putting safeguards in place so that we do not push our system in the wrong place.
One thing that comes to my mind is that, okay, besides all the medical talk, it's just like, as a person, when you kind of just control your environment and you go like, okay, let's just say work is lit, right? What is the opposite of that? Oh, I'm going to turn on the fireplace, turn off all the lights, you know, and kind of just kick back.
Cozy.
That's already like, if I were to go to the Disneyland hotel,
Right.
and you go to that one section where there's just a fireplace and people sitting around.
Yeah, I like this.
I all of a sudden just want to kick back, read, take a nap. You know,
because your cortisol levels come down.
and it has nothing to do with medicine. It's just it's calming in a sense. You know, just visually speaking.
Well, everyone understands the intuitive like relaxation that comes with a fireplace or a bonfire. Like that you don't have to speak medical jargon or biology to understand.
Of course, that's why I'm saying
POMC this, leptin that doesn't matter because you know what you feel.
It's intuitive. You already know that means calm. You know, and then you bring in the facts, and it's just proving that, which is insane to me. So you don't necessarily need to know all of this, but it definitely helps to know that you're doing great. For example,
Right.
So if you've already had a routine of just like turning off the lights or dimming, at the very least, you know, just dim everything to where it's like you can barely see. Beautiful. I've been doing that for years.
And your eyes adapt also.
Yeah, I just feel like a little kid. I feel like a baby again. Like I don't have to be serious right now. Screw it, you know.
Which is what you want to fade into sleep. A lot of people. So the most important cycle of sleep, I would say, is the first 90-minute cycle, because that is the cycle where you get your giant GH, growth hormone pulse. That's going to keep you young, keep you fresh, make you sleep deeply, regenerate your cells, all these things, right? What I theorize is happening, and there's some data to support this, is that people are sabotaging this first 90-minute cycle because they're getting such bright light right before their bedtime. They're not fading into sleep with the behavioral techniques. They're on their phone, they're very active, they're reading email, they're very stressed out, they're going into bed with a high cortisol state that inhibits this giant GH pulse. Your body's smart. It will make the same amount of GH throughout the day, but you don't get that giant pulse. And that giant pulse is what is needed to do all the beneficial effects. If you were going to get like X amount of GH at one time or X amount of GH over 5 times, the one-time giant pulse is going to be more effective for regenerative purposes, for making you feel good, all these things. So this is the crisis that is happening, is that people are sabotaging their first 90-minute cycle. And then once you sabotage that, you mess up the later on cycles. So then you're not getting as deep of a REM sleep, you're not getting the testosterone production if you're a man, and all these things, you know, you spiral, you're tired in the day, you're drinking more caffeine, you're more stimulated at night, and it just spirals and spirals and spirals until you have some kind of metabolic disease, you've gained 30 pounds, you're tired all day, you can't sleep well at night, and it's just a complete mess.
So I'm hearing that it's mostly, it's all brain, pretty much. Once you train the brain through fading, you know, that large gradient we talk about, which is the shift, and then obviously your brain is responsible for relaxing your body as well.
It's just,
so it all starts with the brain.
It's the parasympathetic versus sympathetic nervous system, and then the cortisol aspect of it. So it's just the brain and the adrenals.
Yeah,
they're doing most of this, and then of course temperature. If you're taking a hot shower and then you're cooling off as you walk out of the shower, you're going to calm down, get into a very restorative state, which would be ideal. We have to spend more time fading into sleep. It can't be. We're not a computer where you just shut down the computer and turn off. It has to slowly fade away. Because what I say is sleep is the most important thing that your body and your brain are going to do every night. So it's a giant symphony. Like you see all this crazy brainwave activity that's happening. You're moving memories around. You're restoring your brain, getting the lymphatic drainage out. All these beneficial things are happening in your brain. And if you don't allow yourself to do that, over time it adds up.
Yeah.
You know, there are 2 points that pop up in my mind. Number one is most people don't understand how important melatonin is.
Right.
It's the master antioxidant.
Right.
Number two, and I've noticed this with my own aura scores, I'm sure you have as well. If you study, and I've noticed this in clients as well, if you study 9 p.m. to about 2 a.m., deep sleep. Almost categorically deep sleep for almost everybody. 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., REM sleep.
That's how it should be.
It's perfect symphony.
Crazy.
Like the first few cycles, the first few 90-minute cycles of sleep should be richer and deep. And then as the night goes on, you get more REM sleep. That's why sometimes people wake up like at 1, 2 a.m., they're fully wide awake. They got their deep sleep, so they feel rejuvenated, but they still haven't got the REM sleep, which is going to be for emotional regulation, memory consolidation, all these different things that are going to be happening later on at night, hormonal production, and who knows what else, spiritual benefits that happen during REM.
The most complaint I hear from people around me is, I'm restless. I can't sleep. Why? I don't know.
Yeah,
Such an easy fix,
what is going on? Was it thoughts? Is it like, could there be something that is beyond just the fading light, basically?
Yeah, it's multiple things, of course, but the difference between the day and the night is necessary to drive the dichotomy in your life, right? So you have day, night, and then you have light, dark. That juxtaposition is necessary to drive all other juxtapositions. So the brighter and more intense and more rigorous your day is, whether that's cognitively, physically, light exposure, you're outdoors, you're moving, you're getting a lot of steps, the deeper and darker your sleep is going to be if the light environment's right. The problem is if you like have two graphs, everyone's graphs going like this, where they're very sleepy, tired all day, can't sleep at night. It's just a very dull life. But to drive that dichotomy, light is what drives this difference, right? Now, there's other things. There's stress. People are living miserable spiritual existences. There's constant being plugged in. There's emails. Your boss is emailing you at night. You're on TikTok. You're getting stimulated by different ideas. Even if it's just good, funny TikToks, you're watching that, it's stimulating you from the light, from the screen, from the actual cognitive stimulation. People aren't having sex enough. Like that, as you said, like sex at night is a key part of sleep. That's what happens during when you have sex. You have ejaculation. You have a prolactin rise. Prolactin and growth hormone go in tandem, and prolactin calms you down, rests you up, and then you fall asleep, and then all other hormonal symphonies go on.
Best sleep supplement out there, bar none.
Yep.
Being in our space, I think we would both agree that we're at the forefront of our space in the
Definitely
health Twitter. Outside of that, what are you most excited to see within the next 5 to 10 years? Let's strip circadian biology, divorce that from the conversation.
Sure. What
are you really focused on right now?
I'm focused on the whole peptide game. That's an interesting game that's been percolating and now reaching public consciousness. I'm interested in how do you mitigate and provide stress mitigation, life meaning, these kind of things, because I think a misplaced cortisol system is destructive, both from a circadian perspective and from just a general life perspective. And we're increasingly in a depressed, anxiety, SSRI world, and we need better options for people. And when it comes to metabolic health, like why are people so metabolically ill? Why are people so obese? What's going on? Of course, it's going to tie back to circadian health, but those are the three things I would say where I put a lot of my effort, on top of what's going on with the decline of testosterone, fertility, and overall desire to mate in both men and women.
That's Sai's passion project right there. Why is testosterone so low in men?
I swear.
It's if you take a testosterone level of a 60-year-old man who's old and not robust and a 20-year-old man, the 20-year-old man has a very large peak in the morning and then it goes down throughout the day. The 60-year-old man, or let's say 70-year-old man, has the same testosterone morning and night, right? So testosterone is a circadian game. No one's talking about that. All the testosterone gurus are like, sleep 8 hours, but they don't understand that it is the circadian rhythm that drives the difference between old and young.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep coming back to this point. It's the juxtaposition that drives that. On top of that, there is leptin receptors in the brain, and then downstream from leptin is the kisspeptin, GnRH, LH, FSH, testicle pathway. A lot of jargon. Point is, if your brain is leptin resistant, you're not going to make LH and FSH, the two key hormones that create the testicular function for both testosterone and sperm. On top of that, in your testicles, there are leptin receptors. And if you are leptin resistant, your testicles stop responding to those hormones. So you can have LH and FSH, and you stop making sperm and egg and testosterone.
Bro, so it's so mind-blowing how complex the body is.
And smart as hell.
Yeah, and I would say most testosterone gurus are complete fools. Unfortunately, they do not understand that how testosterone is made, why is it made. And then you layer on what I talked about, the stress and the psychological aspect of it. Testosterone, I asked to everybody, what is the function of testosterone? Saeed, what would you say? Like, what is testosterone? Why does it exist?
It'll provide you with the emotional regulation, I would say. Also,
that's
the will, the passion, everything that you want, the motivation you're lacking, whatever it is. the energy, drive.
Good.
Like those are the words that come up.
Right. Energy, drive, sex, muscle, all these things.
Consistency, yeah, like all of that. Yeah, muscle.
What would you add on to it?
I mean, I would just say it's a master hormone. It touches every system in the body.
Right.
But the drive and the things that make you masculine, that's at the heart of it. That's testosterone.
Because most people associate testosterone with mating with females, but what I say is testosterone is the master social hormone for men. It is to beat other men. Testosterone exists so you are able to beat other men, whether that's in a chess game, not very physically aggressive or anything like that, or a wrestling context or basketball game, whatever it is. It's a competitive drive so you can beat other men, so you can get resources and mate.
So in other words, you can tell someone's testosterone level by seeing how competitive they are.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So now back to what you said, the 9-to-5 employee in the cubicle. That's very cucked lifestyle. Very like you're suppressed. You can't compete against other people. You're told if you compete, don't compete. That's a microaggression, right?
Why should I compete? There's no bonus.
There's no bonus.
Straight up.
Everybody gets an award for 8th place. You don't have a reason to drive yourself. You're getting fatter. You're getting under blue light all day. You're not healthy. You compare that, what I call the spectrum of the surfer to the corporate spectrum. Right, so you have the surfer who's up in the morning. He or she is surfing in the morning. They're getting sunlight exposure. They're getting the magnesium from the water, the cold exposure. They're happy. They're moving. They're doing activity. They're always usually calm, happy people. Rarely obese. You rarely see a super obese surfer. They feel good. They're not on any kind of medication for the most part. Go to the corporate worker. They're on an antidepressant pill. They need amphetamine to wake up and work. They have a sleeping pill. They have Ambien. They're meeting with their shrink 3 times a week, whatever it is.
So true.
They're miserable. Their penis doesn't work. If they're a female, they're not fertile. All the things. So you have that spectrum. Right? That's the modern example of an optimized person versus a completely disaster person. Right? And then you wonder why testosterone's low, because you're not putting yourself in a game. Remember, back to the deep brain structure. So the deep brain, the deep brain is what's
convenient.
Right? The deep brain is doing math every day. Should we gain weight? Should we lose weight? Should we eat more? Should we not? Should we make more testosterone or not? Is it at the right time? Oh wait, we're under a lot of stress. We're about to run away from a wolf. Let's not make testosterone. Right? But we're constantly having this wolf chasing us throughout our lives. Our jobs are so stressful. You're late for this appointment. You're late for that. You're going throughout life. But it's, hey, no need to make testosterone. So there's multiple levels to this, and no one's capturing what the brain is doing.
No, everyone's talking about like obviously microplastics and things like this. They play a role.
Right.
But nobody's talking about the big fish.
Right. And the microplastic thing, yeah, sure. They're everywhere, though. Like, good luck getting away from them. If the freaking alligators are having smaller penises because of microplastics, good luck to us. Like, they're not drinking out of plastic cartons. Yeah, the water's contaminated, period.
Yeah, straight
That's
up.
insane that it's influenced mostly by behavior.
Yeah. So what I say is, like, forget the microplastics. Try as hard as you can to get away from them, the phthalates and the receipts. But more importantly, make more testosterone. Make your brain make more testosterone so you have a reservoir. You're not going to be as manly as you might have been 500, 600 years ago, but you can do the best with what you can do. And if your environment completely is debunk and doesn't work, you need a needle. You're even going to need TRT, or you're going to need Ozempic or whatever it is to undo the damage.
Wild.
Insane.
You have any health questions for this guy?
I did actually write a little thought that I had yesterday.
Hit me.
I thought, okay. So I put this: if the mind is powerful enough to make you sick, then it is powerful enough to make you heal.
Agreed.
Right?
You can think and make cortisol. You can think and make testosterone.
That's crazy to me.
Dude, we're magicians.
So I've heard like miracle stories of like someone with cancer, for example, and they are so set positive on like, I don't even have it, that it actually vanishes.
So I have a thread in the drafts that I haven't released yet, but we'll unveil it here. The traditional mainstream system has known about the cure for cancer for years. It's called spontaneous remission.
And that was a conspiracy like long ago.
Right. No, now it's common knowledge. Like everyone agrees there's something called spontaneous remission, where there's been cases where they open up somebody, they see a cancer everywhere, they close them back up. They're like, hey, buddy, you have 2 months to live. Go live your life. We're not going to give you chemo. We're not going to do anything for you. Just go live. They come back 10 years later, there's no cancer, and they're fully healthy. What happens? It's called spontaneous remission. The way I look at cancer is, after it's developed, it's an immune escape phenomenon. Your immune system is surveilling your body every day, looking for cancer cells, looking for cells that look funky. They have a little bit of a weird behavior and zaps them out, takes them out right away. Once there's too many of those cells that exist, your immune system overwhelms it, and cancer actually starts to trick your immune system and block the ability of the immune system to attack those cancer cells. And a lot of new drugs are coming out are to restore the ability of the immune system to target the cancer cells. Immunotherapy. Once your immune system fails in the ability to regulate cancer, the cancer spreads. You start having a tumor mass you can see on a CT scan or MRI. Eventually, that starts spreading throughout the body. Now, there are cases where somebody does something. We can't figure out what that something is, and spontaneously, immune system comes back on, destroys the cancer. There's been cases of people getting COVID, and then their cancer going into remission because they get stimulated their immune system so much that their immune system started attacking everything.
That is so interesting.
There's so many weird things. There's cases of people, and so people have tried to figure out what this game is. So like, there's a lot of grifters who will be like, "Come down to my clinic, I'll cure your cancer." What they're probably trying to lean into is figuring out a way to stimulate this spontaneous remission. People have tried heat, they've tried cold, they've tried different drugs, they've tried different injections to turn on the body's immune system and make it fight the cancer. We haven't figured what that is yet. So somebody, theoretically, they could be sitting there, living their life, being happy, and then their immune system spontaneously turns on for some kind of reason, and boom, cancer's gone.
The craziest thing, it could be a thought.
Right.
Bro, the craziest thing is that it's the brain.
Right.
It's the
Exactly.
Like,
Well, the thought is even crazier than the brain itself because the brain is a physical thing. The thought is more ethereal. Like,
yeah. What are the thoughts? So it's a very interesting game. I think if we put more time and effort into figuring out what spontaneous remission and how to get to spontaneous remission, we would be better off. The problem is it's counterintuitive to the chemotherapy system because when you do chemotherapy, you're also shutting down your immune system. Right? Like a lot of people on chemotherapy end up getting weird infections because their immune system shut down. And that's the pathway we take. I'm not telling anyone not to take chemotherapy. Sometimes that's the only option you have. You have stage 4 cancer and you're going to go in the forest and cure it? Probably not.
Yeah, seriously.
But what we're trying to say is that the immune system is where the cancer regulation needs to happen, and our thoughts, through cortisol, through different hormones, influence our immune system. Right? So if somebody had cancer, maybe that would be a pathway.
everything we've talked about today, from light to cancer, is all leads to the brain.
Right. Because, I mean, the deep brain structures, especially the brainstem and all the hypothalamus, the pituitary glands, they regulate all of our existence. The rest of our brain, our forebrain that's up here, is for our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our experiences, our desires, our careers. All these things are happening in the forebrain. That's why monkeys don't have careers. Right? Yeah. The monkeys have a very small forebrain compared to a human, and they live off the deep brain structures. The hypothalamus is responsible for the 4 F's: feeding, fighting, fleeing, and sex. So the 4 F's. And that's what it takes care of primarily. That's why most animals live in that existence. Like, how can I get food? How can I run away from a predator? How can I have intercourse? And that's pretty much their existence. What gives us our human flavor is our forebrain.
Mm-hmm. Dude, this is such important work because, like, you just look at the modern landscape of the U.S. specifically. I mean, you have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. You know, a lot of these things are pretty easy to fix if you take a preventative approach.
Right. Prevention is the move for these things, and the modern system is not equipped to give you the tools to prevent it. A 12-minute doctor's appointment with your doctor every year where they put their stethoscope on you and check a couple of irrelevant labs at best isn't going to stop you from having all these things. Your doctor doesn't know about the impact of light, let alone. I mean, the doctors themselves are coming out of residency depressed, on SSRIs, on amphetamines.
Low dopamine.
Low dopamine states. They're obese. They're miserable. A lot of them are going through divorces because the system itself is completely disgusting. That's a different topic. But you come out of it and you sacrifice your 20s and a lot of your 30s. Your circadian rhythm is completely destroyed because you're doing night shifts, and someone has to do the night shifts. And then you come into the world and you want to cure the world, but you are tired, you're overbooked because the insurance company wants you to see 20 patients every half day. Otherwise, you're not going to get reimbursements. And then if you see less, you don't get enough money. Taxes are super high. So you're like, hey, you know what? I could spend 30 minutes with Saeed explaining this topic, or I can just send him a prescription and get him out here in 5. Mm-hmm. Human behavior, simple incentives. What's going to end up happening?
Damn it, dude, everyone has a boss. It's insane.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Oh, bro, it's such a bright future ahead of you. I'll ask you one question here. 15 years from now, I assume you'll still be in the health space. What do you see yourself doing, ideally? Perfect world.
Yeah, I don't think I'll get away from education. I think education is something I've been doing since I was a little kid. Trying to teach, learn, take the thoughts that you see and spread them to the world. I want to figure out ways to go direct to the healthcare consumer and give them the tools to make their own health decisions independent of the insurance-based system. And I think that knowledge is the way you do that. You empower someone with knowledge and information that's accurate and useful and nuanced to their own situation. And I think that the person will have to make their own decisions with the guidance of a physician, if that's possible. But I don't think the system is going to hold up. Because if everybody who has type 2 diabetes, everyone who has obesity becomes type 2 diabetic, our system's going to collapse.
Yeah.
Like there's going to come a point where we're going to have to ration healthcare. I had to ration healthcare during the pandemic, where 2 patients would come in, I'd have 1 ICU bed. I have to decide who gets that ICU bed. Right now, imagine what's going to happen when everyone gets so sick in society. You show up to the hospital and there's not even a spot for you to get your cath. Like nowadays, you get a heart attack, most hospitals, they'll take you in, they'll do the cath lab, get a cabbage, whatever, coronary artery bypass surgery. You'll get that treatment. It's not ideal, but you'll actually get it. There's going to come a time in the future where the medical system is not going to be there for you because of how overburdened and overworked the system is. So the key is to give the people the tool so that they can make the decisions for their own self and not have to deal with the restraints of the system. So that if you do need it, you can tap into it. Like you get in a car accident, God forbid, and you have a broken leg, they could fix that for you. You end up having a coronary artery block and you need a stent, you get that stent. You end up with some kind of rare autoimmune condition, we have a treatment for it. But it shouldn't be the crutch that we use day to day. And the goal with the reason I'm even on social media and Twitter is to find ways to empower people to make their own decisions for themselves.
You've done a good job of it so far, man. 24,000 on Twitter. What do you have on TikTok?
I forgot. It's somewhere around 30, I think.
And then YouTube. Like you're pretty, dude, I saw some videos and I'm like, you're big on YouTube, damn. So you're doing a hell of a job on all fronts, man.
Thank you. I mean, it's great to be on there. You're the reason I started posting on Twitter the most after.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, respect.
No, dude. This was the first podcast I ever came on.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
2 a.m. podcast.
The old stew.
Man, it's crazy. That was like a year ago.
Yeah. No, so much has changed in the last year. I mean, I was thinking back and looking back at what we talked about in the podcast. I'm like, man, I'm a different person than even then. So I can't imagine when you asked me 15 months, we're going to be different people.
Well, yeah, at the rate we learn, I mean, 15 months.
Product idea for you. A fading sunlight simulator, red light.
That would be the move, I think.
Boom.
The closest company to that is Chroma.
They have something like that?
They're working on some stuff like that, but business opportunity.
Yeah.
No, that'd be the move because what you do is you put that in your life and in your bedroom, and then you slowly fade into sleep. It'd be the best you can do with our modern constraints.
Yeah, guaranteed sleep.
So like it's these kind of things that I think are going to move the health space forward. Ideally, it's through behaviors. The problem is behaviors aren't that monetizable, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I tell someone to go outside and walk at sunrise, I could do that all day, but no one's going to pay you for that, right? Yeah. Nor am I saying I want to get paid for that, but just figuring out how to make a idea become a product at scale. There's the business crutch of this too, because if you're unable to run it sustainably in a business mindset, you're not going to be able to reach the amount of people you want to reach and then give them the tools, the quality services that they need. And there's people trying to work on that. There's like a lot of great healthcare podcasts now, a lot of grift as well, unfortunately, because the healthcare space is the most profitable space. The supplement industry, I think, is worth $50 billion a year, if not more. And a lot of these supplements are completely useless, if not completely fraudulent, to say the least. So people are worried about their health. They go into it from a very fear-based perspective. Like you'll see a Yahoo article, like 7 signs of cancer you might be missing.
Oh my God.
Straight up.
Right. But if you put an article where it's like the 7 ways you can fix your skin health so you feel more energetic in the day and more sleepy at night, no one's going to click on that.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out how can you market yourself through good threads that get 2 million views, doing the right video content, making the right product that the person will be able to take and use. And what I call this is like the Trojan horse approach, where we want to come at somebody with something that they are interested in. And then inside of that, there's going to be some kind of secret health. So like if I wrote a thread like how to use circadian health to fix your erections, I'm going to get way more engagement than this is how you fix circadian health so you don't die in 40 years.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all about the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're trying to add in like how much discipline and determination you need in order, because we all know a lot of things about like how to operate, right? But it requires a special type of or amount of discipline for you to even get started or engaged with that field.
Right.
You know, like if I were to tell someone view the sun twice a day, sit in it, you need to be this color, yada yada yada, take sunset walks. Sure, you know, they might do it for a day or two, and it'll just fade away.
There's no why behind it too, yeah.
Right. That's why I try to capture that this circadian health is not some ethereal thing. Like when you check somebody's cholesterol level, and without getting into the cholesterol debate, they don't care. Like I feel the same whether my cholesterol's 80 or 170. Like I don't care. But when I tell somebody about circadian health, when I tell them is that you're going to wake up way more conscious and alert and aware of what's going on, and you're going to go to sleep so beautifully and easily at night. That's the seller on circadian health, if not for all the other benefits. Yeah. But the key thing is that people live such a monotonous, low energy, low dopamine life. And it's unfortunate because I see them going through life. I'm like, dude, wake up.
Yeah. Literally wake up with the sun.
I've been stuck in that where you're pleasing society more than yourself, right? And
that's also low T behavior for us.
Yeah.
Like it's very anti-testosterone when you're like, you have to do this and you have to grudge through society. There's no competition. There's no desire. There's no men meeting up and discussing topics, exchanging ideas, competing with one another in a good way.
Yeah. One of the examples was there was a day or a week actually where Drake was having concerts, and then like everybody on social media was just like taking pictures there. And then there were some people that felt left out.
Right.
That whole FOMO would come up, and they'd be like, I have to go. I'm so tired, but I have to go. And I'm like, okay, then you just said it. You don't have the desire to go. Why are you doing this? It's to take a picture.
Right.
And that's one huge problem. You know?
Well, social media does ruin a lot of these hormones, and it moves them in the wrong direction, whether it's testosterone, cortisol, because your deep brain at all times is trying to see where you are in society. And based on where you are in society, it will either make less or more of the beneficial things you want. So the higher you are in social status, the more testosterone you'll make, more dopamine, more serotonin, less cortisol, you'll feel better, you'll be able to move more because your body's like, hey, you're running the tribe. You need to be at your top game to run the tribe, right? But if you're just low level, everyone is richer than me, everyone has a Ferrari, I don't have anything, I'm driving my Honda, and you feed into that social media vibe, I'm missing out on the Drake concert.
Yeah.
You are now sabotaging your own deep brain and not allowing it to make you have the right hormonal milieu so that your forebrain can make the right decisions and do what you want to do with your life.
That's what's hilarious to me is that like social status, people think that it's just, it's basically, I have to be a basic person in the first reality, and then my social media needs to be like up there.
Right.
But in reality, you just need to be a dope person, do some cool things in real life, and then have social media represent that.
Right.
Then you'll win.
And what I say is the Hawthorne effect is ruining people's life. So the Hawthorne effect is in medical research. When we are watching the individual, they're more likely to make better decisions. Or worse, depending on what the context is. For example, if the individual is getting in a diet study and they have an apple and a donut in front of them, they're more likely to pick the apple if there's a doctor watching them, of course. So this is kind of happening at scale because we're all doing the Hawthorne effect because we're like, hey, I have to go here so I can take this picture. Or I have to go here so that people see me, that I'm cool and I'm socially acceptable, which is unfortunate.
That's insane. I have a funny story for you. I was at the hospital once. I was waiting to get checked in. And I've seen this more than once, but there's this thing where, I don't know if it's anxiety driven or something, but like some people are rude as hell when you get in there. They will literally scream and curse out a doctor.
Right.
Just because they either don't want to get seen, they don't want, they're getting dragged by a parent or something like that. And it gets me to like really think about like psyche for a second and just go, how, like, I can't even put myself in a position where I would embarrass myself like that, you know?
Yeah.
But these people just just toss that out. It's not even in part of the discussion here. I don't care how I act. Just don't touch me. Don't do this, do that. And I'm like, what the? And they come off as regular people.
Is that a light problem too?
No, it might be. I don't know.
It's a mood regulation problem.
I think it's a social media problem.
Well, if you're not getting, that kind of is a light problem and a social media problem. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're not getting enough REM, your emotional regulations is messed up, and you're on psych meds, and that has its own box to open up. It's a lot of people once it gets into that level where you're just yelling in public, most people feel regret afterwards because your forebrain isn't active anymore. It's a deep brain, like very visceral, like reaction. It's like an addict.
Yeah.
When an addict to alcohol, they drink, they can't make the decision to not do that anymore. And what I say at a fundamental level is that we have weak forebrains in the modern state. And what I mean is, for example, I just did a 6-day fast. I didn't eat for 6 days, even though I had food in front of me. I watched my family eat. But every time I was doing that, I was training my forebrain to say, hey, I can make decisions for myself. I can be disciplined and say no to the stimulus. The majority of people nowadays have weak forebrains because it's instant gratification. It's Uber Eats, it's high stream, high definition pornography, it's talk to whoever you want, Tinder, whatever it is. Everything is instant access. So there's no necessity to have this very strong forebrain that can make the right decision for you, right? So when I tell people to go to the gym, part of it is to get their bodies jacked, but part of it is that their forebrain is getting trained because you go to the gym, you know this sucks, and then eventually you start enjoying it, and you lean into this pleasure, and it becomes a routine. You can go to the gym, or you can go have fun doing something else, but you pick the gym. So you train the forebrain. So like when you ask me about what are the key things I'm looking at, is how do you have a healthier psyche so that the person can make better health decisions and have better health seamlessly. Health shouldn't be something where like I'm a healthy person, I have to spend this X amount of my day doing this. It should be seamless, integrated into your life, and you figure out what's environmental cues you want to be coming into your brain and let yourself flow. Because you cannot use willpower and sustain it from a top-down approach for long. It has to be very bottom-up, where if the system's set up, things are flowing that way, and you just jive with it.
Interesting. I mean, yeah. I used to think about it like it was just like more culturally speaking, like depending on where you grew up or how.
That's part of it too,
right? What influences you? Like there's like a very thuggish notion to people sometimes, where they only know one way to act, which is very aggressive, very violent. Where if they were put into a situation where they needed to get their toe checked out that was broken, they wouldn't know how to operate. Like they can't be themselves because themselves is just lost. You know what I mean?
A lot of that's cultural. A lot of that is behavioral, learned. There's a book by Robert Sapolsky called Behave, where he goes into all these different things and how they all integrate to make that decision in that moment. That kind of behavior sounds to me like high cortisol, high oxytocin, low testosterone. And to break that down, your high cortisol, so you're a very stressed out state, and high cortisol states make you do weird things. Your high oxytocin, so it's us versus them. So oxytocin is considered the bonding hormone. So when Zay's with his baby, with his fiance, they're releasing oxytocin together. But oxytocin is also bonding for the in-group, fight the out-group. So if somebody were to break into your house, that same oxytocin that makes you lovey-dovey with your family would make you very aggressive and fight the intruder, right?
Interesting.
And low T state, because in a low T state, you're driven by fear, low serotonin, low dopamine. Testosterone really organizes the male mind. So that's the output that you get. We live in the modern world described as low T, high oxytocin, high cortisol. So everybody's in like my in-group versus everybody else. Everybody's very like dichotomized and spread out. Everyone's run by fear and anxiety. And that's what's causing these weird outbursts on Twitter and in real life, in the hospital, wherever it may be. People aren't behaving properly because it's a very like us versus them mentality.
Yeah, and that brings me to the point, which is there is a proper way to behave. Some people deny that.
Right.
And it's like, oh, where'd you get that? So, you know what? I'm going to shut up.
No, I mean, this is what happens when your culture is learned on Reddit forums instead of in person.
Sheesh.
That's a quotable right
That's
there.
a clip.
That is a clip.
I mean, you would learn culture because if you said something stupid or out of line, you get your ass kicked. Like as a kid, like you did that, like you talk to someone's face and you talk trash, you get punched. When you get punched, you're like, hey, I shouldn't speak like that. So you get calibrated in society. Or you see somebody else do that. Hey, that kid said something stupid and he got punched by the other kid. Hey, I'm better not say that. Nowadays, kids don't play anymore. They're on their own little social media worlds. And in social media, people are saying stupid stuff. We get them reply guys all the time.
Yeah.
When I see them, I'm like, oh, you poor soul.
I love the way you respond.
Dude, or many don't have fathers or they don't have strong father figures because of the problems you mentioned.
Yes. Or masculine circles to calibrate yourself because, the iron sharpens iron analogy is fitting here, but masculinity is shaped by other men. It's molded into the fitting thing for society. So unfortunately, many people don't have that upbringing. They're stuck at home. Single-parent households are bigger. Even if you have a single-parent household, if you have an uncle figure or some kind of coach or somebody else that's in there that can be that mentor. Kids don't have mentors nowadays. They don't have other kids to calibrate with. There's no male-male bonding time or female-female bonding time anymore because the school system is interesting that way. Because if you put a bunch of kids into a room, they automatically make a hierarchy. They figure it out. Like, hey, that's the biggest kid. We're not going to mess with him. I'm the weakest kid in the classroom. I'm kind of going to pull away. You add in some spice to that, add in a girl that walks in, and then that whole dichotomy changes.
You got chimp behavior. That's what you have.
Dude,
It's just chimp behavior.
If you have a spoiled kid, I mean, what's going to happen is one day there's going to be someone that's testosterone filled that's going to bully him instead, and then he'll learn. So it's a little bit late, but
No, the worst part is these spoiled kids, they are the ones that end up in the hospital for suicide attempts, unfortunately, and depressive episodes and mental breakdowns because they're so used to everything going their way. and everything's set up for them. And then they come to the real world, and the real world absolutely sucks. It's not optimal. Yeah. It's not ideal. You have bad things that happen to you every single damn day.
Yeah, you actually don't have control.
Yeah, you have no control what happens. Like right now, a meteor could strike us while we're in this studio. It's unlikely. But if you go to the mind of an anxious person, they're anxious about that. They're anxious about the stupidest things, right? And for them, it's very relevant because, deep brain, forebrain, it's a battle.
Yeah.
So they get into that state, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? But it's because of a very poor upbringing. So like the upbringing we had, like refugee parents that come in from a different country, and they're trying to make it here.
Yeah, you have a responsibility from a young age, so that they've set that tone already. Right. Yeah, I get you.
It's like you absolutely cannot act out of line because you got to make it. And that's what's missing in the modern upbringing, and that sets up the kid for a lifelong of depression, anxiety, psych meds, makes the psychiatrist rich. but like the worst thing I've seen is the trust fund babies that have nothing to achieve after 18.
Yeah.
So remember, the testosterone, these hormones are all about achievement and how can you excel in life. So if you have nothing to achieve, your life is already set. You've set yourself up for nothingness. It's just bland. It's like, well, I already have $50 million in my trust fund. So what am I going to do with my life?
That's depression right there.
Yeah. It's a mismatch between the reality and the expectations.
Dr. Aboud Bakri, man.
Wonderful.
Seriously, the most based doctor in the land, I'll tell you that.
Literally, everyone go follow him at Aboud Bakri on Twitter, or X now. Thank you.
Still Twitter. No,
still Twitter. Still Twitter.
Well, we're not going to end the episode.
Elon's going to ban us now.
Oh, no.
No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway, guys, go ahead and follow Aboud and follow us at the 2 a.m. Podcast. We're available everywhere, on every major streaming platform. We're also available on YouTube at the 2 a.m. Podcast. We're on Twitter at 2 a.m. Pod. Go ahead and follow us. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify. And support us using any affiliate link in the description below. And we'll drop his as well.
You guys are doing great work in the podcast, so make sure you follow, support them.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here always.
He's doing even better work.
He's doing even.
It just keeps going.
It's all a team here, man.
Yeah.
Round 3 coming soon.
Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. We will catch you next time.
Peace.